Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I do a lot of crafty things, mainly with yarn or journaling. I'm really experimenting right now, so I might be doing a lot of different things on this channel. So if you need some inspiration for your own journaling, or just want to have something relaxing play in the background, keep watching. I really appreciate you clicking on this video. That being said, let's get right into it. I love starting with a blank page. I know for some, and especially for myself at the beginning, a blank page was really scary. But over time, I kind of felt more excited that, I had a blank slate to work on. At some point, I just felt super comfortable that, whatever was going on in my journals was really just between me and myself. And after that, I just got way more excited about where my creativity would take me rather than worry about what the end product would look like. I always thought to myself, well, if this page isn't that great, I always have the next page to work on. And if anything, I can see my progress over time, which is really awesome too. So here I'm just sifting through a lot of magazine clippings that I collected over time. I kind of just gathered a lot of images that I thought were really cool, or they stood out to me, or I thought, this would look really cool on a journal page. And I really go for what just feels right to me that day. Typically, I look at pictures that inspire me, or I feel like, this is how I'm feeling today. And also, it kind of taps into the color scheme I'm feeling that day. So if I had to describe my process, it would really start out with, I guess, a color that I'm feeling or a picture that speaks to me. And once I have my main image or main quote or, whatever is really going to be the highlight of my page, I kind of just roll with it and I kind of experiment and play around with the different combinations or orientations of these clippings, as you can see here. And once I have a really good general idea of how I want the page to look, I start pulling out other materials that, can help kind of emphasize or complement what I'm trying to do with my page. So I pulled out my washi tape just to see, what colors could match or, what colors would help it stand out. And I really just play around with the elements. So that brown background is actually a greeting card that that I thought was a really good color to complement the image that I have here. Clearly, I was feeling a lot of brown and neutral tones in the beginning. You'll see over time that that really changed. So usually when I'm journaling or I'm doing this kind of crafty journaling, I tend to have something on my mind. Like there's something that I want to write out, but in the meantime, I'm just like working with my hands to try to figure out what exactly it is that I want to say. And when I'm ripping up paper or, rearranging materials, finding the right washi tape, it somehow helps me tap into my emotions a little bit better. Like it helps me feel things more clearly, if that makes sense. I also don't take my journaling super seriously, by the way. I do try to have some sort of like underlying message, or I really try to get my ideas across. I do like to save a lot of random captions and headers. I really just save things that make me laugh, or, it's kind of like, that's really punny. Um, or, that'd be really cool to have in my journal. And, if I'm feeling it that day, I'll just pull it out and see if it can fit in with my page. I also like to work with a lot of different materials. So I've been experimenting with this particular journal where, not only do I just work with paper and everything, but I also work with ribbon. I think I've tried to put in some of my crochet into my pages or fabrics. So this day I was really feeling a lot of mixed media. I pulled out my ribbon just to see if it would vibe with the page, and turns out it did for me. I actually really love the idea of mixed media in my journals. Every once in a while, I do like to look back at my journals and reread my entries, and I really love when I think outside the box and I get to like touch the fabrics of my entries. I really do like to keep little receipts and stickers and other little things. I think I got a plastic ring once and I actually turned it into a bookmark for one of my journals. Here I'm finding out if this blue ribbon kind of has a place in today's entry. It's not part of the neutral tones that I was going for, so I'm seeing if I'd rather have the ribbon in the entry or if I'd rather keep that map image. Is there another type of ribbon I can add or another background color that I can do instead? So I pulled out my handy paper pad. As you can see, this paper pad is full of 6x6 sheets, and my journal happens to be 6x6 as well, and that's no coincidence. I've really been using these papers to fill in my pages, so it's an easy way to add backgrounds and different colors without trying too hard. I'm looking for what's a good color here to match that image. I decided that that image was the most important one to keep. I was really starting to feel pink at this point. I noticed that the pink flowers kind of matched the pink flowers in the image, so I felt like I was onto something there. I narrowed it down to pink flowers or yellow flowers, and yellow because it matches the ribbon more, and pink because it matches the flowers more. So I took a lot of time trying to decide which one I wanted to keep. In the end, I went for the pink flowers. So now I'm just kind of placing it on the page to see if I feel satisfied about it. And spoiler alert, I did. And now I'm trying to figure out if that background really works for all the other elements I wanted to add to it. That little green posted over there is just a little placement marker for me. I'm still trying to get the orientation of my camera right and making sure my journal is always within frame. So that little green thing is kind of my indicator that the journal is within frame. So don't mind that. And I use regular old Elmer's glue for this journal. Normally, I do like to try to pick glue sticks, or I even try to use double-sided tape for my attachments, but this particular journal, I was very experimental and I didn't really care about if my paper would look soggy or not. I just wanted to see if it was even possible to get this journal done. So, what makes this journal different from all the other journals that I've written is that this is the first journal that I have made completely from scratch. So, normally I would buy a journal from the store and I'd have a bunch of blank pages to work with, and all I'd have to do is, you know, attach my little magazine clippings or write whatever I wanted to write. But this time around, I wanted to make individual signatures from paper and things that I had around the house. I really wanted to expand from the traditional journal format. So, one huge problem that I was facing in my past journals was that every time I really wanted to get creative and I want to glue a bunch of stuff into my books, in the end, my books would look very clunky. They wouldn't fold very well, they wouldn't close right, or they would bend. And, it was basically because I was gluing so many things into it that it just got way too thick for its original binding. So this time around, I wanted to make individual signatures first and then bind the journal afterwards so that, I wouldn't have to be faced with the issue of, you know, a book that can't close. The spine would be created at the end, and so the book would always be able to close properly. And I thought it was really fun because that would mean I get to make my own cover too. By this point, I did feel really satisfied with the color scheme I ended up going with, which ended up being kind of a beige and a pinkish theme. So once I'm happy with my background and I have a place for me to write my thoughts and the overarching message or quote that I wanted to add to it, then I pull out all of my stickers and I really run with it. I just go with what feels right. I go with what kind of complements the image that day. I love looking at all of my stickers, so it's always a great excuse to just review all of the stickers I've collected over the years. I've only just started collecting stickers made by local artists, and even though they are a little bit more expensive than sticker sets that I can find at the store, I actually really like collecting them because they tend to be more meaningful for me since I'm spending more money on them. And also, the quality of the stickers are way, way better. Outside of those stickers, a lot of the stickers that you see here have been purchased in a lot of different places, and some of them were actually even gifted to me from friends. So I have a whole mixed bag of them, which I can't even begin to tell you where I got them. All right, now it's time to narrow down which stickers are best suited for this entry that I have. I feel like stickers are in and of itself its own little side project. So after I pick all of the construction paper and the clippings, then I figure out, are the stickers going to fit well here? Are the stickers going to complement each other? And here you'll see me trying to figure that out. Stickers are usually the last part of the creative process for me before I start writing my entry for the day. But for this particular one, I was feeling a little bit extra. As you'll find out in a little bit, I'm going to work with the ribbon a little bit more. But typically, by this point in the creative process for me, I'm feeling satisfied with how the entry turned out that day. And, once that feeling of satisfaction hits me, I also consequently feel satisfied with how I want to express myself. I don't know if that fully makes sense, but what I'm trying to say is, this whole time while I was putting this and that together, I was really thinking about what was going on in my mind at the same time. So by the time that my entry is usually almost done, I also feel somewhat ready to figure out what I want to say as well. And that little folded piece of paper there is where I'm going to write my entry that day. Normally, I do like to have my writing out in the open, as I flip through my pages, my writing is apparent. But for this journal, I was definitely feeling super creative and I wanted more interactive elements. So I thought it'd be really cool to just have an entry where it's nothing but the art, and then I'd have to like unfold the page to read my entry that day. Okay, this here is an awl, AWL. And I decided that for my final element, I'm actually going to sew in that thread that you saw earlier. So right now I am marking even spaces on the pages so that I can take my awl and kind of stab little holes in it so I can sew in the ribbon later. So I'm adding a little buffer underneath the page so that it's easier for the awl to stab holes through. And that buffer is actually a swatch that I made for a sweater from a long time ago. I love being resourceful, as you can tell. So I'm doing the same thing on the other side now. And you'll see that I'm going to also try to get it through the ribbon as well, which is really cool. This all comes in handy because that's kind of what it's made for. It doesn't just stab through paper, it can stab through fabrics and I think leather as well. So if you're into mixed media like I am, I would recommend having a tool like an awl to be able to do things like that. Now I'm pulling out a tapestry needle and threading some, I think this is called thread yarn, so that I can sort of sew trimming around the edges of my page. I think if I'm remembering correctly, I wanted to figure out a really bold way to blend the shades of pink together on both sides of my entry. And I'm doing a really simple under, over technique here. And I'm just making sure all of the threading is evenly spaced. But I really like the way that this entry came together. I really like that I ended up deciding to go with sewing some thread into my paper. I think this is the first time I actually tried and experimented to this extent to do that. And I'm sure by this point I was kind of worried, like, okay, well, am I gonna like ruin the next page or am I gonna ruin the previous page? So I did kind of double check to make sure that the page before it wasn't affected by it too badly, but also in in the sense of embracing the chaos, I also didn't really care if it did because as long as I could still read the words, then it should be fine. And since the thread is so thin, I knew that wouldn't be a problem. So now I'm just kind of tying it up with a bow on one end, and on the other end, I think I kind of glued it or tied it or taped it back. And here's the finished product. So there's that space for me to write into, and that's kind of it. Let me know if you guys want to see more process videos like this. I feel like I learned a lot from just recording and editing this, so I would love to make more if you'd love to see more. And also leave a comment down below if you want to share what your creative process is like if you journal, or if you want to start journaling, what's keeping you from starting. And if you made it to the end of this video without skipping, then you are amazing. Well, thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.